Hello and big welcome to everyone joining us today. It's me Jyoti Pokhara, your host for this session, and I'm genuinely excited to be here with all of you. Today's event, Inkspire Research Writing for Beginners, is brought to you by CSITAN Pokhara in collaboration with CAIR Nepal. And for those who may be new here, CSITAN Pokhara is a non-political, service-driven organization that's been working to bridge the gap between students, college academics, and the tech industry. We regularly host workshops, trainings, and seminars to help students grow beyond the classroom and get closer to the real-world tech scene. And now let's talk about the person we've all been waiting for. Our mentor for today's session, Dr. Tek Raj Chhetri. He is the founder and director of the Center for AI Research Nepal, CAIR Nepal, and a postdoctoral associate at the Sensible Intelligence Group, MIT USA. And he brings years of experience and expertise to today's session, Inspire. From publishing impactful research to mentoring students across the globe, Dr. Chetri has been actively contributing to the field of AI and research both in Nepal and internationally. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Hi everyone, I'm doing good. How about you? Are you all excited? I hope I can inspire you today into the research journey. Can I? I think I can share my screen.
Yes. It's truly a pleasure to have you with us. We are very grateful for your time and excited to learn from you. With that, I'll hand over the virtual stage to you. The session is all yours. And to everyone listening, feel free to drop your question in the chat. We'll have a Q&A at the end.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I can't see anyone if anyone is posting any questions. So it would be nice if you could just interrupt and then ask the question.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome everyone again to this research writing workshop brought together to you by CSIT Nepal Pokhara and the CAIR Nepal. My name is Tekraj Chhetri. I'm founder of CAIR Nepal, where I supervise research, and CAIR Nepal essentially does research in the field of artificial intelligence, mostly in computer science, but primary focus is on AI. To be precise, it's responsible AI. Okay, it's a long session, so I would skip what CAIR Nepal is. Maybe if we have time later, we can discuss and talk about CAIR Nepal a bit. Yeah, but these today I'll be covering these things like starting with the brief introduction to understanding the structure of paper and the publication process, how the like what are the steps that happens behind the scene when you submit the paper, just understanding those aspects. The other thing is to write cover letter for the article submission. What are the things that you need to take care of when you are revising manuscript, and reasons for rejection, and where do you because there are many places you can publish, but where to publish, and understanding like why it is important to know where to publish and what to publish. After that, we'll look into the best practices for publishing. uh, Once that we get everything covered on the left hand side, we'll move into ethics, which is very very important. Uh, and if you do not take anything from this talk about publishing, writing, or whatever things, I want to you all to take the main, like, even if you, I'm not saying you don't just focus on these aspects, but if you say, okay, I did not learn anything, that's fine. But most important thing is like take some of the important things that we'll discuss in the ethics, because that will be applicable not just in this publication process, but also uh, many other areas that it will be important for you. So we'll be discussing about ethics, importance of ethics in research, and what does it mean to have the ethical publishing. Uh, we will see three different things like plagiarism, editor authorship ethics, and if you are conducting a study that involves human or animal subjects, then what are the things that you need to consider and the ethical best practices. And then we'll
सर
end the
अलि सरको बोलिदिन मिल्छ साउन्ड अलि सानो आएको छ भन्नुभएको छ
okay. अहिले जस्ट अनम्युट गरेर भन्नु है साउन्ड सानो आइरहेको छ भनेर
अहिले अलि बेटर छ सर
ओके okay now let's move on to introduction so what is uh, what is a research paper, right? I just asked ChatGPT as everyone is being aware of like what ChatGPT, and it gave me this answer. A research paper is the structured document that presents an in-depth study of the specific topic based on original research or review of existing literature. Now, the important thing here is the structured document. Research is not any random document that you write, like the blog and other kinds of things. The other important aspect here is the in-depth study of a specific topic. You don't say, okay, AI, and then you don't discuss all about AI. But if you say AI, you focus on a specific areas of AI and go on to answering like specific research questions or the hypothesis that you may have. So it is very specific. It should be deep enough, and it should contribute with the original research. It should contribute with the original body of knowledge. It's based. That's what it meant, like original research, something new that you are doing, or the review of the existing literature. That means you consolidate what other people have done into a single paper, like the survey paper. That's what it meant. And the most important thing, no matter which type of research that you are doing, it should contribute to the new knowledge, uh, analyze the existing finding, or propose a new theories. For example, if you study a specific group of people, what is it that you want uh, the readers to take away after they read your paper? Those kinds of things that you need to take into account. That's what research paper conveys. New knowledge, new findings from either from experiments or new theories. And one thing that I should tell is that writing research papers is not easy, and it requires substantial effort. It's not a 1 day task or 1 month task. So you should, whenever you are writing a paper, you should always think about the timeline, because it's not like your assignment that sometimes you sit together a day before and then complete and make a submission. It's not like that kind of thing. So this thing that I was saying is structured document. Here's a sample. This is a journal paper, and here's one of the blog articles. So this is not a research paper, because it's not giving me new knowledge, and it's not structure as well. It's just the technical documentation. Here, it's a research paper. It's focused on specific areas. For example, something related to privacy and quality of IoT data sharing, uh, and it's a structured document. Now let's understand like what kinds of research one can do. When you say research, it's a very broad term. There are different kinds of research that you could do. Let's look into them. So these are not the exhaustive list, meaning there are many different types, but primarily they fall into these three categories. One is the foundational research. These are the kind of research that focuses on foundational understanding. For example, if you are working in the machine learning, you try to look into different methods that can improve. For example, how does activation function ReLU, for example? That's for those who are not in computer science. That's one of the function that controls the behavior of the machine learning. You try to understand uh, that specific aspect in detail, or you try to propose new theories. Uh, that those kinds of research falls into the foundational research that goes deep dive into the foundational aspect that can enable uh, many different applications. The other one is the applied research, which is more to say that you apply those different techniques like machine learning, data analysis, to have the real world understanding or to solve the real world problem. For example, autonomous vehicle, or understand how diseases are propagating. Uh, yeah, those are the applied research. Basically, you apply different techniques to solve the real world problem, and these kinds of research falls into the applied research. The other one is the translational research, which is to say you apply the different areas of research, not necessarily in the medical domain, to improve the human health. For example, applying a machine learning to predict how likely like the person will have certain disease, screening cancer, those kinds of things. Those kinds of research falls into the translational research, where you enable where different those technologies enable applications that will ultimately lead to improving human health. Now that's the overview. I did not want to keep it long. Now let's look into the structure of the paper, the thing that's more interesting to us. So this is the general structure, depending on the journals or conference or even the domain. For example, computer science, life science, they may have some slight variation in this structure, but whatever the variation is, the nuances remains the same. It always conveys the same thing despite the different structure. But this is the generic structure that almost all or majority of the paper follows. It will have title. Every paper, no matter what, it will have title. And title should be short and catchy, and it should convey what your research is about. Because that is the one thing that people will first read before reading your paper. The second one is abstract. Don't worry, we'll be looking into each of these in detail in the upcoming slides. The second one is abstract. Third one, introduction, then literature review, or sometimes people call state-of-the-art studies, methodology, like what are things that you did, like approach that you follow, and then experiment, what kinds of experiment you conducted, how, and what evaluation that you did. And we have results and discussion, where you discuss your results that you have achieved during the experimentation. And finally, you provide the conclusion. And you have the reference or the bibliography that is to cite the other papers. Now let's look at one by one. Okay, let's focus on abstract. So what is abstract in a paper? Abstract provides the summary of the paper, and the main important one of the important component in the paper, I would say. Why? Because whenever people are trying to find the suitable paper, they first look at the title and they read the abstract. That's the first point, first entry point to either paper. So it should clearly convey what you have done, why you have done, and what results were achieved. Usually, abstract is uh, somewhere between 150 to 250 words. Sometimes it may be more, but that will be explicitly specified by the journals or the conference that you were submitting or you plan to submit. Generally, abstract doesn't include any references, but it doesn't mean you can include. But it's not a well practiced thing. And whenever you are writing abstract, you should avoid the abbreviations unless it is widely known. For example, you say, okay, AI, you can use it because it's a very widely known. But if you have something that you invented, or I don't know, something that's not widely known, you should not use it. Because then the question becomes, why should you not use it, right? You should not use it because people will not able to understand. For example, if you use AI, I don't know, for a different purpose other than artificial intelligence, the person reading that, unless he's well aware of that acronym, will not get what you want to convey. Okay, and abstract also varies a bit depending on the field of research. Uh, some of the fields, particularly this happens in biology and other fields, they want to specify, they want to split the abstract into subsection, like they ask for specifics of heading, like okay, what were the objectives, what were the significance, and then state your significance in the abstract itself. Despite the fact, whatever the structure it may be, the abstract convey the same thing. Mm, it's just the variation in the format. Here's an example of the abstract from this paper. Uh, so you see the title, it says it wants to improve some prediction accuracy and user level explainability using some techniques. And it was focused on this cassava disease. Now, it should connect with your abstract as well. Let's say, okay, it's a cassava, it's a one a kind of plant that people can eat. So does it connect with the title? Yes or no? Let's check. Okay, here we say food security. I'm not going to read all of the things, but I want to point out the specific highlights. Okay, it talks about artificial intelligence as does the title and also the knowledge graph. And here it also highlights the limitations and what is being proposed. Remember, I was telling here, okay, sorry, what was done, why was done, how, and what were the results achieved, we can clearly see here. Okay, here we say why we are doing certain things. For example, this is why we are doing certain things and what we are doing uh, to address what kind of problem and the results that we've achieved. This is the highlight here is very important because first we always try to give the high level big picture so that people understand, okay, what is the significance of this research. And then we come into the next level where we say, okay, what was done before. And for example, here it says disruptive technologies like AI and deep learning can contribute to sustainability. For example, applying deep learning for early disease classification allows us to achieve something. But then here I highlight, okay, this is how technology can contribute to this global problem, but there's a problem within that technology. And then that's why we are proposing our study, and then we have achieved certain results. So this is how you want to convey the message to the user. Okay, we are doing this thing to address this problem because the existing work is unable to address, or there's some limitation, and then you show what you have achieved. Here's the other variant of the abstract, something that I was talking about before. You see, they want the abstract to be split into the multiple subsections. Okay, objectives, study design and setting, what results you achieved, and what were the conclusion. Essentially, we are splitting this information into multiple subsections. So, uh, always check the journal or the publisher where you want to submit the paper before writing the abstract. But whatever the uh, structure, it maybe it still should convey the same thing. What you have done, why you have done, what results you have achieved. Is there any question on abstract? Okay. If not, let's move on to introduction. One of the important part of the paper. I would say yes, as I'm saying, it is the important part of the paper, and it should clearly convey your research. Uh, Now here we go a little bit more into deep, little bit deeper than the abstract, clearly highlighting the same thing, the research limitations, giving overview of the big problem and also the big picture, and most importantly, highlighting the research questions. The
Sir, I have
introduction,
a question.
yeah, sure.
Question is, should we mention keywords in abstract? I have seen it in a few places, and why is it written?
Okay, that keyword is not important for the research itself. That's to index your paper. When it gets published, people want to search by certain keywords, right? That is to help that kind of thing. And you want to align it with your research paper so that it becomes discoverable. Okay, I'll proceed with the things that I was saying before, unless there's a follow-up question. The introduction should follow the funnel structure. Like with the broad context being on the top, and you basically what I'm trying to say here is like you start with the big picture and you narrow things down, going from top to down. For example, okay, one thing if we consider this paper, okay, we'll be talking about okay the global food security problem, and then that's the broader context or high level significance, and you narrow that down into your research problem, like okay, what have been done by other people and what were the problem. You discuss that it in detail, and then uh, you conclude it with your research objectives. And one important thing is you highlight what is the research question or what is the problem that you will be solving in that particular paper, because you can't solve everything. It should be max 1.5 to 2 pages long, not more than that. Okay, introduction can also be structured into subsections for clarity, although it's not always necessary to do so. You can have subsections like motivation that provides the broader significance of the problem, goal, one of the subsections that will clearly highlight your objective and the research question that's being explored, contributions. Okay, with the completion of that work, what is it that you contribute? You should clearly highlight that. Okay, so if you did some uh, literature review, what is it that you make a new contribution compared to existing work, right? This is again connects to what we were saying before, contributing to the new knowledge. Here's an example of the introduction, where we see the introduction has been split into multiple subsections. Okay, motivation, goals, and contributions. So it's not always necessary, but you can have these subsections. Next is the literature review, why it is important, and what should it contain. Let's have a look into it. Okay, literature review, it provides the state-of-the-art overview of the work. For example, if you are doing disease prediction, for let's say cancer disease prediction. So you want to review all the related works related to cancer disease prediction. What has been done before, and why is this important? This is important because to ensure that you are not repeating things and you are building up on existing research and also contributing something new by addressing the limitations that existing studies have highlighted. It may be optional in some journals where they don't want you to explicitly have literature review sections, but be it be part of the introduction, you so that you don't have to have separate sections. But in computer science, it's always required. And whenever you discuss the uh, literature review or the state-of-the-art studies, you should always highlight the gaps and advancement that they have made. For example, what are the advancements they made, and what is it that they have the limitations. Again, when you are highlighting these gaps, it should connect with your paper. It's not that you can randomly highlight things. If you highlight something in your paper, you should clearly state that connect with your paper and then address it within your paper. If not, you should clearly state that you're not addressing certain gaps. One of the tips that I can give you is to have a table where you can compare the different state of the art works with your work that you're doing. And then people can already see the difference on what has been achieved and what was the limitation. The other thing that you can do in this literature review is the have subsections so that you can group the related work. Here we can see an example where we group by okay, server level failure prediction, virtual machine based failure prediction. Yeah, it's not the rule written on the stone, but it's up to you to organize these subsections to effectively convey what you want to convey in terms of the state of the art review. Because if I combine, for example, let's look into if I don't have these subsections and if I wrote this first paragraph and the VM based study, and then again this server level failure prediction, it creates inconsistency, like it's not coherent, and then it makes difficult to understand things. And now when I group things, it becomes clear like what has been done in this particular area and in the other area. So for that, you can have subsections, but it's not always required. That doesn't mean you have to have always subsection. It's not. Yeah, and if you're doing the systematic literature review, like the survey kind of study, follow the Prisma model. What is Prisma model? They provide the guideline how to select the paper, how you should record, how you should screen. Basically, they provide the step-by-step instruction that you could follow to do the literature state-of-the-art review. Uh, I think it's really good for when you are working with the survey paper. Now, the other part in the paper is the methodology. This, other than the introduction is, you can think of introduction as the selling point of your paper. If people cannot follow what you have done in the introduction, they will not read your paper. Uh, you can also see that from the marketing point perspective. That's what engages people to read further. And the methodology, once people are into your paper, they want to know how you have done certain things, and if they can use your methodology or adapt it in the research paper. It's the central component that highlights overall strategy and rationale behind your approach. Important make here is methodology and methods because they are not same. Sometimes people tend to use it interchangeably, but they are not same. Why? Because methodology focused on the theoretical framework. It's not like I did this using X method. No, it's about your theoretical framework and design and justification of particular method. It provides a general way that people can adapt it to other studies, not necessarily your study, and it dictates a way how you solve or how you approach to the problem. Methods are the specific techniques. Now you can see the difference, right? It talks about your why you did certain things, answering why question, and research here it looks into specific techniques like what and how kind of question. Let's look at one example. You can calculate mean, median, and apply it in traces, right? That is not a methodology, but the the questions that you answer, like why should you take calculate mean or median, that those considerations constitute a methodology. Okay, so the thing that I was saying before, methodology is focused on explaining questions like why particular method is used, what types of data were collected, and how, and methodology differs from different types of research and can have like different subsections. But despite whatever discipline that you are working on, the central component remains the same. It is same as introduction, literature review, methodology. Every component, every parts in the paper, there may be variation, but the central component remains the same. They should convey the same thing. Okay, why should now that we have looked into methodology, like one of the things that I want to highlight is like people should be very careful about when they are writing methodology or methods, because if it's unclear, then it can lead to rejection of your paper. There's one of this paper I encourage everyone to read. It provides a clear, very detailed information about research methodology and research methods. And yeah, yeah. This is one of the things that I was posting on the Twitter, like saying, okay, what happens when you have unclear methodology? Like it also leads to the problem of irreproducibility, meaning that other people will not be able to replicate your work, and that's not good, uh, because that means people will not trust on your research if it's not replicable. Yeah, here's is a difference. Here, this is from the computer science paper. Here, you can see materials and methods. Not always like all of the papers have methodology. This is also one of the important things that you need to understand. Like, and you should not be too focused on, oh, I did not have methodology. But yeah, that also depends on fields, how people or the how community are following. You should also look into that aspect. Okay, here's another example of the methodology where you have multiple subsections. It is described different things. Now let's look into the experiment. Okay, now at this point of time, you have designed your methodology, and now you want to conduct the experiment to get the result. It describes the component of the research, like for example, what data set was used in computer science, what hardware. If you are doing life science or social science research, for example, if you are conducting survey, like what kind of technologies you use. Did you uh, use like Google Forms, those kinds of things? And if you use existing data set, existing survey data set that was published, you can mention here. And it also describes the tools. This is okay. Some of the things that I'm talking here are from the computer science perspective, but it should apply to other areas as well. For example, in chemistry, they use lab equipments, right? Those kinds of things that you should be describing here, and metrics that you use to evaluate. I mean, how did you evaluate? In computer science, we have certain metrics like accuracy, precision, recall for the machine learning. Yeah, those kinds of things. Like the metrics are the uh, that you use to evaluate. Yeah, in computer science, if you are working in the machine learning areas, you also need to describe the training and testing in the experimentation section, which may not be applicable to other domain, but you may have something similar related to your study. If then you should describe it in the experiment section. Uh, yeah, defining hardware is very important. This is something I wanted to highlight here for the computer science people because sometimes what happens is that depending on the hardware, your result you may not get the exact result. You may you may think like, okay, why is that? For example, if you apply if you run simple classification algorithm on the PyTorch implementation and you run in different hardware, you will not get the exact same result. That's because of the architectural variation, like how the each hardware based on different manufacturer have a different way of interpreting those instructions, like floating point instructions. Some support 32 bit, some support 64-bit precision accuracy, uh, and then that may lead to incoherent, like difference in result. So to the people who do not understand, what I'm trying to say here is that based on different hardware, the accuracy of calculation varies because some hardware has certain limitations and some yeah have more capability, and that will lead to okay. We can think of a simple calculator. Some calculators will give you okay 10 digit like floating point after point. You can see 10 digits. Some only supports 3 digit. Some does the round up. So that kind of problem is there in the hardware as well. Not the problem, I would say, but the, that kind of variation exists, and that leads to difference in the result. That's why you need to specify all the hardwares that you've used, along with the hyperparameters and things like that. And there's a study. I did not have it here, but you could find it where they did this study uh, observing the differences in result. And finally, the results and discussion section. Here you present your findings, like where you discuss your results that you get from the experimentation. And you should use tables, figures, graph to support your findings. But when you use these figures, make sure that they are readable and it's not that for example you use the appropriate figures. For example, if you want to show the trend, you use the line graph, not the bar graph, right, or the other thing. Although you can argue that okay it shows the trend but it's not uh, clearly visible with those graphs or pie. Okay, the most important thing is to correctly interpret your results. You can, because here with the experiment you get the number. For example, if you get 100% accuracy, what does it mean in your study? You should be able to correctly interpret that thing. If you get 50% accuracy, what does it mean? Because sometimes 50% result may be better than 100% result. That you should be able to convey. Why do I say 50% might be better? Because your data may be very noisy, you may not have enough data, but you are still able to achieve 50%, which might be the way above the current state of the art. While the 100% accuracy the other studies have achieved may be using the balanced data set, and the difference with the state of the art may be 0.1% or 1%. That's why you should be able to clearly interpret your results, why you are getting a certain study. The other thing when you do in the interpretation is like, what's the significance? What does it mean to get that number? And how does it impact, if you are looking from the life science perspective, what does that certain results mean and how it will impact people or some biological process? It should be able to compare. Yeah, especially in the computer science, always try to compare the result with the state of the art studies. This is when you use the existing data sets and benchmarks, because you can find the other studies using the similar results, so that you can show, okay, you clearly have achieved some advancement. Here's an example where we show the comparison. Okay, this is the proposed approach, and these are the existing studies which this study compares to. Okay, it compares on two dimensions. One is the accuracy, and other is the uh, explainability. One of the thing that I want to highlight is here. You see, here it achieved higher accuracy than the proposed method. Uh, but still, this is why you need to compare with the existing study to show the differences and what is it that you have achieved better. If I compare with this study and this study, though this is a new one, it proposed new approach, it's not performing better than this study. But what it is doing better other than improving, it shows the improvement, but it also has the other dimension that it's not addressing, and that's where this study stands out. So this is why you always want to compare with the existing work, and then evaluate from multiple dimensions, so that even if one dimension is in one dimension you falls up, the other dimension will cover, and that reviewers can also understand why your study is valuable. The other section is the conclusion. Here you just restate what the problem objective that you were focusing on, what were the key findings. But when I say restate, you don't repeat what you have already, like you don't want to repeat things that you have already said. You should explain the significance and implications of those findings, and also highlight the limitations, and provide the future directions. Because if you say my study doesn't have any limitation, I'd clearly say you are wrong and you are lying, because there's no such study that they don't have limitations. It's all there's Science is a process where you always improve things, and there's when you are studying things, there will be limitations. You may improve certain things, but there's always room for improvement. So you should highlight the known limitations, so that other readers will be aware of it, and also provide the future directions. I'd like to take a moment and ask if there's any questions uh, for these different parts or the structures of the paper. Okay, then now that we have looked into the different parts of the paper, like what a paper should have, let's look into the publication process. This figure highlights the overall publication
Sir,
process.
there
Like,
are few questions.
Yeah,
Samrita Pathak asked, in which section should the algorithms be kept?
yeah. I'd say in the methodology or methods, materials and methods section. Yeah, that's what you want to discuss.
Okay, Sabin asked, कति percentage repetition को acceptance हुन्छ?
Okay, what 30% repetition? I think we you are talking from the reusing other resources. You can use as many as you want, but you have to give the proper attribution, and you don't copy exact things. You still have to write it down on your own words and give the attribution. If it's a different, if it's a question from different, if it's something different, just let me know. I understood it from the citation and reusing other publication from that perspective. And we look into that. We have ethics section where we look into plagiarism and what it means. How do we do proper what are the proper ways to cite things? All right.
Another question, sir. Sir, when we conduct research, we also need to take some advice from mentors or professors who, who has experience in that related field, and the communication skills matters.
Yeah. Okay. Taking advice. If you are an expert, you don't have to ask anyone if you can do it by yourself. It's not a thing that you uh, that is mandatory, but research usually are done in collaborative fashion because you may have a tunnel vision. So it's always if there's anyone, it doesn't have to be just mentor. If there's your co-worker, you can always discuss things because then you may get new insights and feedback. For that purpose, yeah, you should always try to work in group. But that doesn't mean you should all. It's mandatory thing. Yeah, communication skills, it does matter because if you are not able to communicate properly, no one will understand and your paper will get rejected. All right, let's continue. I think some of the things that has been some of the questions that has been raised, that's already in the slides where we discuss the best practices. Now, this figure clearly communicates the publication process. It's a long process. Uh, Especially in journal, once you submit, they do the internal checks. Like if the paper that you have submitted aligns with their theme. If not, they will do the rejection, which we call the desk rejection. It doesn't even go to the peer review process, the second stage. Or if it's very badly written, then they won't allow because sending to some experts utilizing their time is worthless in that case. Once it passed these initial checks, it will be sent to the reviewer, sometimes three, four, or two, at least two experts, where they will read your paper. Remember, when they read the paper, they want to know what is it that you have done new, and they want to find the flaw uh, because they are a critic. They think of them as someone who you are competing with. They want they want to find the flaws and then improve their paper. You should not take their reviews negatively, but that's what they want. They are there for. They want to ensure the scientific rigor. And once they complete the review, they will send their review decision, like whether to accept, whether to revise, or whether to reject, along with the comments. And if it's a rejection, and then there will be the editor who will review the reviewer decision and the comments, and some because sometimes they may make inappropriate or they may misjudge the paper, and there may be conflict between the reviewer. One may say, okay, accept it, and others may say, reject it. In that kind of situation, it will be sent to other reviewer to get more review, and the editor will consolidate those review and provide their decision, which would be either to revise. That means, okay, your paper is good enough, but there are still things that needs to be improved. You should address it and resubmit it. There are different kinds of revision: major revision, minor revision. Minor revision are few small things that you need to fix, not a major deal. Major revision means there are methodological flaws which you need to address, or some experiments that you need to address. And then the other one is the reject. So depending on the decision, you'd revise the submission and resubmit it, or if it's got rejected, that's the end of the process. Now, whether you revise and submit and it gets accepted, or if it's got accepted on the first instance, then you'll get the decision as acceptance, and it goes into the post-production process where their publishing house, the the other people from the publishing house will improve your paper in terms of formatting according to their journal formats, and then it will be made available online or in the prints, depending on the policy of the journal.
So there is a question uh, by Amir Karki. Question is, sir, we can conduct the same type of research that is consist of foreign location data. Now you want to do the same type of research taken the data of own country.
Yeah, you can. That means first you did study in a small area, and then you want to extend it to larger population. That's perfectly fine. People do that kind of study, particularly when you're studying, particularly in the social science. For example, I may conduct a study to understand students' uncertain comprehension in one school, and later I may conduct the same study, extend that study, I don't know, in the on a district level or on a country level. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Okay, the other one is cover letter for the article submission. Now that we understood, okay, the publication process, structure of the paper, why it is important. I want to discuss a little bit about the cover letter for the submission. When you prepare your submission, you should also write a cover letter. It should be max 1 to 1.5 pages, so it should be concise, formal, and the professional language, and it should address to the editor in chief of the journal.
Sir, there is a question
Mhm.
from Gaurav Gautam. What specific steps can be taken to improve a research paper that has been rejected after peer review beyond simply making a revision in response to comments, particularly when those comments are ambiguous or contradictory?
Uh, I'll skip answering this question for the moment because will be discussing it later. There's a section where I want to do. I'll be discussing about revisions and things. We'll look at that in there, or I think even in the upcoming slides. I think it will come. So the other thing that you should ensure is the clarity and the logical flow, and you should emphasize the impact and novelty of the research, like why your research is suitable for that journal or why it should be published, and avoid redundant and unnecessary details. Here's an example. It's one of from one of the paper that I was submitting. Okay, this is the for the initial submission. Okay, I said, okay, this is our paper title. We want to submit in the journal, the editor in chief. And then I clearly highlight what is the highlight of our work. What did we do, right? Uh, it's a framework. We achieved certain results, and then we improved. We have improved accuracy, and also we propose some new metrics, which is intrinsic to the shared data. And then we say use some semantic technology that can allow easy integration of multi-source and heterogeneous sensor data. Uh, so these are the key highlights of my study, and you should also do the similar things when you write a cover letter. You should highlight the key things about your paper so that it helps at the initial screening phase. And you should also yeah, have your correspondence email address, who is the corresponding author. That should be communicated, all the information communication from the journals. And here's the cover letter for the revised submission. Again, for the same paper, they made some comments and we made some improvements. So we clearly say, we can clearly see the difference, right? Here, initially, we were highlighting what we did in the paper, but when we resubmit the same paper, we highlight like how we address the comments from the reviewer. Okay, this is about the cover letter. Now let's look into the revising manuscript. What are the things that we need to pay attention to and how we should revise the manuscript, right? First thing first is to read through the reviewer's comment carefully and revise the manuscript. There are different kinds of revision. You may get major revision, as I was saying before. You must address all the reviewer comments or concerns. Now, when I say address all the reviewers' comment and concern, it doesn't mean you always update the paper. Sometimes reviewer make an ambiguous comment that may not be relevant. So in that case, you should clearly say, okay, it's not relevant to your paper. But whenever you are saying that is not relevant to your paper, you should also provide the supporting evidence why it is not. And sometimes the reviewers say, okay, you have not done something, and that happens, but it's still in the paper. If that's the case, you should say, okay, you should communicate that thing in a professional way that, okay, we have already done, and also point to a specific section in the paper where the reviewers can find that information. And if reviewer has commented on some, like say, okay, the experiment is not enough, then you should either work on it, or if you think it's already enough and that comment should not be applied, you should respond why. And then when submitting the revised article, you should follow the same process. The paper goes through the same process as the initial, like checking. Initial screening will be skipped, but the rest of the process will be followed, like peer review and editorial decision, review of the reviewer comments, and making a decision. Now, sometimes you spend months and months of time, sometimes a year or more, and then there will be a reviewer saying, okay, I did not understand, or this does not make sense because the paper has done it in X way. And then they may either give you revision or even reject. You become angry. That's obvious. It's human nature. But the thing is, even when you are angry or rude, you should always be professional. Um, is always formal and the professional language whenever you are replying. Because if you try to be unprofessional and write things in the like revised document when you are responding to the reviewer comments, it will not help you. Uh, think review they reviewers have nothing to do with you, like with you in person. Like they don't have personal vendetta against you. They are there to establish the scientific rigor. At some point of time, you will also review paper. You'll do the same thing. So take their comments, read through it with a calm mind, and then address it. That's what I would say. Because if you did not address the comment, one thing is certain, which is the rejection of your paper. So being angry, being not addressing the problem will not help. It's a harm to you, and that's not a professional thing to do as well. Now, rejection. What could lead to rejection, right? The one that I was saying, desk rejection, editor finds it's not suitable for the journal scope or is not prepared according to the guidelines. Poor writing or presentation, the article doesn't convey the message. What could be the reason? Lack of clarity, coherence in organization. Example, poorly structured abstract or introduction, grammatical errors, formatting issues, figures are not readable, or the tables that you have constructed does not contain the data uh, in a format that it should. Some of the things can lead to rejection. And methodological flaws. If there's a methodological flaw, there I'm 100% sure that there will be no revision. There, it's a direct rejection. At least I do not ask for the revision. I ask, it's a rejection. I say I would specify like why I am rejecting and what should they do next. Insufficient results, or the results are not convincing to support your research questions or the hypothesis that you have made. Unclear research question, you say you are addressing something, but essentially your result is not supporting that. And yeah, you see, if you do not address the reviewer's comment, that's also a reason for the rejection, ground for the rejection. The other major thing other than the methodological flaw is the ethical issue. If any of the reviewer or the journals they find ethical issue, that's a straight rejection. Um, there's no compromise on that. I think, and it's very important to have this ethical issue uh, observe, monitor carefully. Now, let's look into the like where do you want to publish? You have written your paper, right? Where do you want to publish? Yeah, because it's important to understand where to publish because you want to publish because you want to get certain benefit, but if you do not publish in the right venue, you will not get the benefit because it means nothing. Why? Because there are predatory journals. If you publish there, instead of that research helping you, uh, it will do more harm. Always publish in the good places. When I say places, I refer to the conference journals that are reputable and not predatory. Predatory journals or conference means the fake one who try to scam you through saying, "Oh, we waive all the publication charges and do the fast. We'll do the fast publishing." That those kinds of things that you should be worried about. Here's an example of the predatory publisher, like how they reach to you, like how they try to entice you. You see, they say this thing, okay, eager to buy blah blah blah. If they say okay for just 199, you see they are giving discount and those kinds of things. Good journals or the conference, they don't reach out to you like this. So if you are getting lots and lots of email like this, you should be cautioned. Yeah, this is about publishing and always try to check because there are journal recommender where you if you put your abstract, it already provides a suggestion on different journals which best fit your scope. So you should check, and you should also definitely check what your community publishes. I think that's the very easiest way. See where community are publishing. Is it the conference? Is it the journal? Yeah, and we should publish there.
Sir, there is a question from Gaurav Gautam.
Mhm.
because it is too context specific or not generalizable. The majority of South Asian educational research is rejected. How can we teach research while maintaining local realities and writing for international journals?
Uh, okay. I think this is there's a misconception. I would say because our education standard is not good or things like that. Uh, we have flaws that I understand. We have limitations and limited access to research, but that does not mean that we could not do the good research. Uh, and this is where many people have a misunderstanding that it's always the money that does the good research. No, it's the people that does the good research. Uh, yeah, sometimes we need some equipment, some hardware access that we want to have, we will not have. But then that sometimes also leads to innovation. For example, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, it was, I think, the training cost for ChatGPT was almost $1 billion. And DeepSeek, they did not have access to hardware as OpenAI. And then they come with a clever strategy of training. Um, and then you see the difference, right? What I'm trying to say is like, it may also lead to innovation and things. Yes, we do need to understand the ground realities, uh, but those are the things, not those are the things that are out of control most of the times. And we should instead of focusing on, okay, we have this and that, try to focus on things like how can we get best out of what we have, I would say. Because there will always be that kind of situation even here. At the big institutions, you may not always get what you want, because many people want to access their research. Despite having that research, you will not have full availability, right? So those kinds of things always exist.
Sir, there are few more questions. Maya
Mhm.
Chaturvedi asked, what conferences or journals do you recommend for publishing first paper?
Okay, let's have a discussion at the end. I want to cover. Okay, these are the good questions. If you see here, you can see if it's for computer science, you can just follow these links and publish in one of these journals or conference, which have A or B ranked. Yeah, and journals like Springer Nature, Elsevier, Wiley, those are the very reputed publisher. Peerless One, yeah, you can submit there. Now, the publishing best practices. What are the best practices for the publishing? Okay, one is to follow the funnel structure. This is not for the publishing, but writing the paper. I just wanted to distinguish between ethics and this one. Okay, one, you should follow the funnel structure. Always check the guidelines of the journals, conference, so that your paper structure matches them. Spell out the acronym on the first time they appear before using the abbreviated form. Make sure you proofread. If you have typos and all those kinds of issues, that's not nice. And that reviewers will get bored and will not read and will comment harshly, which you want to avoid. Most importantly, make sure your methodology and methods are clear and understandable. This is a key component of your paper, of how, why, and you did certain things, and it should be very clear and understandable, so that other people at later point of time, if they want to replicate it, they should be able to. Record your experimental setup and experimental experiments in detail. Sometimes people think that they always have to beat the state of the art and get the good result. No, it's not. That's the wrong conception. You can also report the negative result, because if you did something, it did not work, That's also a good thing for the community to know, because other people will not be repeating the same mistakes. Follow the referencing structure. Different journals have different referencing styles. For example, IEEE uses the number, the other way uses the APA, where you have author name and the publication year. Make sure your reference is complete. What does it mean? It includes DOI, and for the conference, it also includes venue and when did it occur. And always try to compare your result with the state of the art. Okay, I think we can take a 5 minutes break before proceeding on to ethics.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and if there's any question that you'd like to discuss, yeah, we can.
Yes, sir, there are a few questions.
I can have a
Sir,
look.
okay.
Okay. Uh,
Apil Acharya asked, Sir, would
I'm,
it
read-
be
I'm reading it. Would it be
eh,
more accurate or impactful to focus on technical sides such as AI models? Okay, so the question here is like, would it be, what would be impactful, the foundational aspect or the applied aspect of the research? Uh, Depends. Both are helpful, both are useful, I would say. Applied aspect has a direct connection with people and tend to produce more impact than the foundational aspect. But if your foundational work enables many different applied can enable many different applied works, that is also beneficial. So you should not do research like this. Okay, what would be the impactful? I would say you should do the good work, and the impact will comes automatically, both in the foundational and the applied uh, areas. Okay, and this is the wrong thing. Uh, to say if you do foundational work, it gets accepted, and if you do applied work, there's a high chance of acceptance. No, it doesn't work like that. There's a scientific rigor that it needs to be maintained. So if you are researching on some topic and that requires some other research content to deliver, so for how much? Okay, this is about literature review. You should try to stay to the current latest related work and try to limit it, because for some of the research people have been doing it from 90s. You don't want to include all of those things. So you should define the criteria, saying, okay, we did review the work from, I don't know, 2020, 2019, but you should always justify why uh, are you doing in that way. Um, and plagiarism and other thing, I think we can look into the ethics. Let's, yeah, come back in 5 minutes. We'll look into it. Okay, these questions. Okay, publishing in blog and academic. No, you don't want to publish in blog before. So if it's a part of the research thing, you don't want to do that, because some publishers do not accept already published things. I would say keep posting your questions, and then let's have a discussion it at the end and come back after 5 minutes.
Sir will get back to us in few minutes.
Yeah,
Please
we can.
continue.
I just wanted to like have a break for everyone so that they can take time, prepare their questions. Well, you can still see my screen, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, now you should be able to see, right? Okay, this question of like a recommendation about how should the paper be written once the experiments have been conducted and relevant information collected. Should paper be written from the beginning in a linear fashion, or is it more effective to take inside-out approach? It depends on like this is more of a people's different people have different taste, I would say. If I had to answer it from my perspective, I usually write from the top-down approach. I write the introduction and then related work and also the other sections. But I've seen people doing other way around. They write, okay, experiments result and then go up. I think it doesn't matter which way you write. Uh, why do I follow the top-down approach? Because sometimes you think, okay, I have this great idea, I want to write, but then when you start to look into literature, like when you start writing, you do some kind of improvisation, and then that sometimes can also lead to change in your methodology or the approach that you intend to follow. That's why I do that approach, but I've seen people doing other way around. So it's there's no one uh, correct way of doing things and no right and wrong way of doing things. You should use AI. I'm not opposed using AI, but you should not rely on AI completely. Yeah, because people do use AI, and that's a paradigm shift. So uh, I'd not suggest anyone to stay away from it, but use it responsibly. Because at the end, it's you, the author, who is responsible for what's been put on the paper, and that's out there. Okay, as a beginner, I want to get into this, and should I start early and take some or take some expertise on this? Yeah, having I would say, I think this goes back to the question that someone was asking before, about the mentor. Having a mentor is always beneficial. Even now, people I have mentor and other people even senior than me, they have been mentored and have discussion. That's always helpful. It's not about I don't know how to do research, but it's about a discussion and things that could be enabled when you do things. So, uh, having if you're new, always try to, especially if you're new, having a mentor is very important because they can guide you through that process. All right, I think we can start resume our session and look into the ethics. And as I was saying before, if you do not take anything, do take some things from ethics because it's very very important. Okay, ethics, right? So what is ethics? I just let's look into the definition from one of the dictionary. I think it's Cambridge or something. It's the principle of conduct governing an individual's or group. You say it's the principle that guides people or a group to do things responsibly. and that's very important. So not just in terms of research, but also in our own professional life. And ethics in research uh, started because of the, I think this is from the World War, where Nazis were doing some experimentation in concentration camp, and also the other study, syphilis study in US, where they were using humans as a test subject in an inappropriate way. So to avoid that kind of situation and have a professional conduct, ethics was started. To see the background where ethics comes from. And one of the key things is that ethics and morals are not same. Morals refers to one's habit or behavior. So it's more of a personal principle, but ethics is not your habit. You may like it, you may not like it. You still have to follow because that's the right thing to do. One of the things is there like the medical code of conduct. Some of the doctors may say, okay, I don't like this particular part, but it's not there for them to like or dislike. It's there for them to follow. That's what ethics is about. And that's what ensures that they do their job appropriately and not the way they want to. And that's the same thing in the research. It doesn't about whether you want, like it or you don't like it. There's a certain set of conduct that you need to follow. And why is it important? Because research have impact in our lives, right? For example, you say, okay, I develop this method which can address, let's say, cancer, and then people try to use that thing, and instead of solving the problem, if it does harm, you see the problem where I'm going to. That's why you need to maintain ethics and not fabricate data and do things like that. Now, let's look like why it's important. The same thing that I was saying, the credibility and trust in research. It also promotes transparency and reproducibility, which is very important in research. Because if someone is not able to reproduce your research, that means there's some issue. And it's one of the big problem in the scientific community. It's a non-problem, the reproducibility problem. And it upholds the rights and welfare of the participants, especially when you are conducting study on human subjects. Then you need to be also aware of what their rights are, and yeah, what their rights are, and make sure that it does not harm others. Again, we have been talking about this a lot. It prevents the misconduct, um, such as plagiarism, data fabrication, and falsification. And it also helps you to avoid legal repercussion. So now you may say, okay, that's good. There are some conduct one needs to follow, but what happens if we don't follow, right? If I publish my research, I did not follow. What next? I already published my research. So even if you have published your research, there's a consequences. It's not that you published and it's all done. No. If at later point of time, if people find that you have fabricated your data or you have falsified the experiment, there will be consequences. For example, you see, this paper was published in Nature, very, very high-end journal, but they did the retraction. That means they took it down, saying, okay, they find some thing wrong with the paper. Here they have retracted, raised some concern. Like, okay, here they say lower half of the figure appears to be identical as upper half, meaning they felt that the data was fabricated. Some of the that was observed in the figure, that usually you don't get identical results, right? Either there was some flaw or uh, some data fabrication kind of thing, and then they retracted the paper. Here's another example from another top journal. They retracted this paper, and then concerns have been raised regarding this article, the substance of which relate to article adherence of Elsevier publishing ethics and policies and the appropriate conduct of research involving human participants. You see, this study focused on human participants, but they did not follow the ethical guidelines on how uh, the human participants should be involved. For example, taking their consent and those kinds of things. I don't, I haven't looked into details, but what I'm saying here is they violated the ethical conduct that has been established for the human participants, and that's why this paper was withdrawn, like retracted. And if your paper gets retracted, that's bad for you. That means you do the cheating, you do the fabrication, and then it's like a thief. How would you treat a thief in the society? That something similar will happen to you in the academic community. People will not trust you or your research. They may question before saying, "Oh, it's a great research." They may say, "Okay, did you really do that? Did you not fabricate the results this time?" And you don't want to be in that situation. Few more journals where it was retracted again, and you may also lose the job. I've seen the question. I think we can discuss it later. I think one of the news was about Harvard president the last year or some time. Okay, I see there was some network issue. Uh, so what
Yeah.
I was saying, yeah. So what I was saying was that the Harvard president, when she did her research during her early career days, they found that she has done some misconduct. Yeah, she has done some misconduct, and that she had to resign from the position. You see the consequences where it goes. Now let's look into the plagiarism. Plagiarism is the process of or the practice of using another's idea or the work pretending that it's your, meaning that so we tend to think, okay, if we copy things from other people without giving attribution, it's a plagiarism. But what I was saying is that
Sir,
this.
again there is an issue.
Sorry.
There was a network issue again.
Okay. So what I was saying is that plagiarism is not about just copying things. It's also about taking other people's idea and claiming it to be your own. That's also a plagiarism. Now there are different forms of plagiarism. One is verbatim plagiarism, where you copy the exact word without giving credit or acknowledging it. Now there's a mosaic, which is you mix it on your own word, like someone else's idea or opinion, and then you say, okay, this is your own idea. That's also plagiarism. Paraphrasing, writing, and when you do paraphrasing, that's also a plagiarism if you don't attribute the source. If you have taken something from others and paraphrasing your own word, yeah, that's also. And self plagiarism is when you do the duplicate publication or use your own word, own publication. For example, you have published some paper earlier year, you use the content from that without citing. then it's also plagiarism. Even if it's your own publication, you should cite it. And the plagiarism, some of the things may not apply here, but still wanted to discuss. Copying or downloading of article in part or whole without attribution. Image plagiarism is using images or videos without proper attribution. So that's why in the this is not just for the publication. This is also when you make the presentation, the things apply. Or when you write any other scientific or other text. Now, detecting plagiarism is hard. There are tools that can detect, but it has its own limitation. But when we say detecting plagiarism is hard, you should not take it that okay, so people cannot detect me, so I should do it. No, someone is speaking.
No, I think that was an error.
Okay. So I was saying is that okay, there are difficulties sometimes. It gets unnoticed, but that doesn't mean you should and you have a right to plagiarize. You should not. You can. It's unethical. And some of the plagiarism checker tools like Turnitin you can use if your institution have access to it. And whenever you submit to the for the publications, especially for the journals, they do run through these kinds of tools and check. So now that we have seen different ways of plagiarism, how can you avoid it? One is the simple and the best way is to give the attribution and cite the required sources. In case of copying text, if you want to use the exact text without having any modification, you need to include it in the quotation mark, inside the quotation mark and cite the source. You can give acknowledgement, you can use footnotes and obtain the permission when necessary, especially for the images and other materials if you want to use. Be it from author or the publisher, you can obtain the permission. Now, there's another kind of, though, as of until now, we discussed, okay, what kind of things that will have, what are the kinds of things that we need to be aware of when writing paper, right? From the citing sources, uh, from the text, writing the text perspective. There's another kind of ethics that you need to look into, which is the authorship ethics. So, what are the rules? Because you may say, okay, he's my friend, he's nice to me. Should I put him as an author? Obviously, I can, and no one will know, but that's unethical. And there's a this is a very wide known ICJME, International Committee of Medical Journals editor. They have defined the four criteria. So if you want to put someone as an author, they need to meet this following criteria. They need to make the substantial contribution, uh, be it on your design, conceptualization, experimentation, data collection, whatever it may be, or work on the draft, so that and critically reviewing it. They also need to provide the final approval. So if there's a conflict between the authors, you should not submit paper, because if you submit to the paper, it gets published, and the other author says, "Okay, I did not agree to this," and reach out to the publisher, it will be taken down because no one wants to have those kind of conflicting things. Yeah, the most important things, whoever the authors are, they are accountable for the work. So if you say there are four different authors, one of you assign one of the tasks, let's say data collection to your friends, and he did fabricate the data. If that kind of things happen, you should always try to pay attention to it because you are also accountable for his mistakes. Uh, it is your responsibility to review the accuracy and integrity of any part of research as you are involved in those papers. Why authorship matters? It gives recognition and has important academic or social implications, which I should not say. For example, in case of PhD, you need to have publications to be able to graduate. So you clearly see why it's important. And in terms of professorship, it gives you promotions. Different types of author. First author, the one who is making the significant contribution and is leading the publication. Last author, often they are the supervisor or the senior researcher, but not always. And there are other co-authors. Corresponding author is the one with whom journal will make the communication to. Usually it's first author, sometimes they can be different author. Yeah, order of the authors are based on the contribution made, like okay, who made the more significant contributions. They will be first, second, third. This is not always the case because in different fields they follow the alphabetical order. And then if that's the case, they clearly highlight saying, okay, for example, authors are alphabetically ordered, and you can also mark the contribution what authors have made. Some journals specifically ask for that, what each authors did, those kinds of information. And if two or more authors made the equal contribution, you can mark them, say, okay, these two authors made the equal contribution. So it doesn't matter if they are first or second author. So they are the equal contributing author, right? If there are any disputes, there's a guideline called Committee on Publication Ethics. You should review and try to resolve it. Now let's look into ethics on human and animal subjects. Yeah, whenever your study involves humans or animals, special considerations should be taken to ensure that you do not violate their human privacy or cause any harm. There are very various ethical guidelines. You should always review that. Okay, your institutional guideline, publisher guideline, even at the government level, you should review all of those things and then make sure you follow that. And yeah, in most of the university, they have institutional review board where you can submit your approval request. This should be done even before starting your research. You should clearly state how you are going to collect or use those human participants, and they may say, okay, it's fine. It will not harm. You can proceed. Or they will say, okay, it will have significant impact in a negative way, so you should not do this, and they will prevent you from doing that. If they prevent you from doing that, you should stop. You should not go around and do things. Again, that's not ethical. And if they find, they may yeah, proceed with the legal case as well, or they may remove you from the university. Or if you're a student, they may not even give you the degree or revoke your yeah. Here's an example. This is from the U.S. National Institute of Health, where they have codes and conducts and different things. But this is something that I just put it here so that you can see, okay, where can you find those kinds of information? And they are already available out there. It's just that you should look into it. Okay, now what are the best practices for ethics? Always make proper attribution. Just because you have to make attribution doesn't mean you cite everything, because you should cite only when it's necessary and it's not random. Also, you should not cite for the well-known facts. For example, in a research, you say, okay, sunrise in the east. You do not have to cite anyone because you know that sunrise from the east. And it's a very well established Reduce what authors do is like they try to cite their own paper just to increase the citation count. You should avoid that and only cite when necessary. Always try to cite the original research and avoid excessive citation of the secondary citation, the secondary source. What does it mean? For example, there's a paper A which makes the original remark on something, and there's a paper B we cited paper A. Now, if you can find both the papers, you should not cite paper B because paper A is the original source. Rather, you should cite the paper A. Yeah, there are cases where you may not have access to paper B, the original one. In that case, it's fine, but you should try to minimize that kind of secondary citation. And there should be consistency in formatting. Always see the guidelines from the publisher. Avoid misspell author names, wrong publication dates, publication being used. Like these are the kinds of things you don't want to uh, you want to avoid. And you can use the referencing management tools like Zerto, Mendeley, and Note. That's an example. That this is good. Here I say this is bad. Why? It's missing the uh, here it says okay volume, page number, things, and here we have DOI. Here we don't have. The bad in the sense that it's missing some information, even though that information is available. So it's incomplete citation. That's what I meant. Yeah. So same thing that I was saying. You do not cite the common knowledge or the well-established fact. Avoid plagiarism by omission, failing to cite the sources even when paraphrasing or summarizing information, and authorship. Always follow the authorship criteria. Do they fulfill that authorship criteria, or you are just including because he or she is your friend or you happen to know them? Every conference journal publisher have their own guideline. Make sure you check and follow those guidelines. Never falsify, never ever falsify your data result just to have the good result and publish it, because that will come around, and when it comes, it will not be good. Instead of falsifying, you can just report the negative result uh, if you have. That's that's a very good thing to do, and I would encourage even the research community now they encourage the negative results. Yeah, this is something again to iterate it to highlight it. Whenever there's a human or the animal subjects, added to ethical guidelines established by the agencies, research agencies, publications, journals where you are submitting, they may have their own guidelines that you need to follow, and also the university. So you should look into that, request the approval from the institutional review board before doing anything. And then when they say it's fine, then you should proceed on to doing research. Yeah, that's all I have for today because these are the topics I just went through on a very high level. Some of these things, like it takes, you can talk about it, I don't know, week or months, even for the semester, there are courses for this. It was just a high level overview, so I'm happy to take and look into those questions. And one of the things I think that I wanted to say is we at CAIR Nepal are launching the course, and okay, maybe I can share the other presentation, right? That I have probably maybe interesting for everyone. Yeah, so here, okay, you may be wondering like how can you engage with CAIR Nepal if you want to do research. So you can help us by participating in our study that we do. That's one way to help. Obviously, this is not what you are looking for. You can join our team. We occasionally publish such opportunities for internship theses. You can visit our website, and sometimes, yeah, because of time constraint and things, we don't have it online. You can also reach out to us if you don't see. You can contribute via open source contribution to our work. We are doing different kinds of work. You can follow us in our social media channel for the updates. And as I was saying, we are launching the course. So if you are interested, you can join the course. I think one of the courses is on research writing. The other one is on, yeah, I think I was not sharing. Other one is on artificial intelligence. I think that will be more of a micro master's degree kind of thing, more extensive. And also this research writing, I think it would be a 1 month, not full 1 month lecture, but then you do more assignment kind of thing and get feedback kind of thing. All right. That being said, happy to take questions, and I'm reading the questions that have been put on the chat.
And now it's time for Q&A. If our audience have any questions for our mentor, you can either unmute your mic and ask, or you can simply drop it on the chat box, which I can read it for you.
Okay, there's a question from Deepak Sai. You already have experience of what's your take on AI in this field? Would it affect this field? Okay, if I understand this question, you mean the research. If it's different, just unmute and say, clarify what the question was. It is having an impact even on the research. I'd say every technology it does. So, but that being said, even when AI is there, it will just have a paradigm shift, but there will always be research. I mean, those AI is also output of the research, right? Okay, there's a lot of question about getting started. I'd say the easiest way to get started, not the easiest, but I'd say encourage you to read more papers. I don't know how often you read. That's the one of the habit that you need to establish. You need to read. You need to develop skills of finding the correct paper. Let's say you come up with an idea. First thing you want to do is you wanted to go out there and see if other people have already done it. If you are thinking, most likely there are other people in some parts of the world they have thought of that, and they have probably even done that. So you should look into that, and you should have a habit of reading. When I say reading, it's not just you read once. I meant the critical reading and trying to analyze the gaps. Because if you don't read, you don't get ideas and you don't know what's happening in the field. The other question is like, how shall we approach to the professor, university, PhDs? I have consulted with some seniors and they say our keen interest should match with the professor and also should cold email professor how much of this is true. Okay, uh, this is a good one, I'd say. Yes, usually what happens is that you want to take the people whose interests align with what I am doing, for example, or any other professor is doing. Why is that? Because it's a risk. If a professor is doing research in one direction, if he jumps into other direction, it's a risk for him as well. That's why they want to or you want to focus on the area of interest and the professor which you are interested in, then you align with them, right? For example, You cannot write an email to a social science professor in AI research. That doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it wrong, but that's a stupid thing to do. So how should you approach? You should clear whenever you are writing an email to a professor or anyone reaching out about any other opportunity. You should say, okay, who are you? Where are you from? What have you done? Right? To show that you have some experience and things. And if you have any publication, point it out to them. If you read their research and got attracted to them, their lab, you should clearly state that. Yeah, it's yeah, and you always send the CV. That's what I suggest people to do. It includes more detail, and sometimes you don't get yeah a response. That's because it doesn't align with their interest, and they don't have time to respond, or sometimes they are busy, and sometimes you get late response. For example, I can tell you, I think from MIT, I think they responded me in I think 2 or 3 months. So that can happen. Can you please share your experience of writing the first research paper, challenges you faced, and learned during the process? Okay. I was working on experimentation and methodology since I had experience with always writing reports and preparing seminars. So I did not face that much of difficulty when I was writing first paper. Yeah, but it's different for different people. It's just because I had prior experience on how to write things and what they look on the research paper. Also, I was reading a lot of papers. Okay, if you could publish single-handedly, that's a great thing. You can publish it. I would definitely recommend you to do if you are able to do that kind of things. And if you have time, it's not about sometimes you are able to. Yeah. If not, find a peer and work together because then it's always good to have multiple people, not just because it will give you different thought process and you definitely improve than if you work alone. Okay, it does have advantage if you are able to write a paper on your own. That means you can come up, you can work independently. So that's an advantage. Yeah, and if you can do, I'd say just go for it. Are there any other questions? By the way, you can also unmute and ask questions so that I don't have to read. What's the common mistakes beginners make when writing research paper? Uh, okay, one of the common mistakes that I usually see with the beginners is how they write. They try to write like they speak in their daily life. That's not how it works. And especially this applies to most of the non-native speaker. They try to use heavy English word and things. Okay, it will make things good. No, that's not. Uh, those are the kinds of mistakes, and they do not focus on coherence uh, and writing like and conveying the message of like why the research is important. What are the kinds of gaps there? addressing. They do mention it, but it's in a very vague manner, which is what you don't want in the scientific paper. Length of the paper, okay, it doesn't matter if it's your first paper, second paper, or I don't know, 100 paper. That's determined by the journal, conference. They have specific restrictions and guidelines on the number of papers. So you should follow that. Okay, it's a science, so it's always formal. And I don't know what does it mean to be interesting paper. I think every science output is interesting, at least for me. And no, you can have satire kind of thing. And that's a comedy thing that you don't do it in science. There's some opinion kind of paper where you discuss contrasting views, but yeah, that's a different thing than satire. Okay, if there are no more questions, then I think we can end here. And if you have any questions at later point of time, you can reach out to me. Okay, I did not put my email. You can share my papers.chetri@cairnepal.org.
So there is one question, I think.
I came across fascinating people with a fascinating content, but the title seems unengaging or don't reflect the depth of the work. Is there a reason why some researchers see such title, and how important the title is in shaping the first impression of the paper? Uh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there people uh, chose those titles. Can you share the paper? But it's highly unlikely that they say something in title and say something in the body of knowledge. That's highly unlikely. Okay, they don't get paid, but all they are okay. They get paid because that's their job to do. They do it for science. If just to write a paper, you don't get paid. But you are associated with the university, you get a salary to do research, right? Yeah. Recognition is secondary, I would say. Primary thing is doing science.
If you have any questions, you can drop it on the chat.
Okay, there's someone is saying, wondering how title gets approved. There's no process of approval of title and other things. You just put it and it should align with your research. So it's you as an author who should come up with the title and decide it. And reviewers, if they see like it's incoherent, then they will comment on it. Yeah, I think we can end here. And one thing that I would like to say is I'll be issuing a certificate of participants. So Jyoti, you can share their participants' details like name and email address.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, sir, for such a thoughtful and engaging session. The way you broke down research writing, shared your personal journey, and gave us real practical advice made everything feel so relatable and motivating. It's not every day we get to learn from someone who's not only working at MIT but also leading impactful research here in Nepal. We genuinely appreciate your time and presence with us today. It truly meant a lot. And now I'd like to invite our president, Mr. Vishnu Pauril, to come forward and present a token of love to our esteemed mentor.
Thank you, Jyoti. Let me share the screen first.
Uh, okay, I would also like to take this moment to thank everyone, particularly the participants, for your time and for your interest. This is something truly amazing, I would say, because when I was studying, there were no concept of research. There was like very people were doing, but that was not as wide as it's now. And people at early stage are getting involved. This is truly remarking to see, especially in the context of Nepal. We have lots of problems in education in terms of infrastructure, lack of government support for research. Yeah, I would say keep up the good work and be just don't be like, oh, I'm interested in research now and it's hard. Okay, I should drop it out.
Easier to visible.
Yes, Nai.
Okay. As a small gesture of our appreciation, we would like to present this token of love. Let me read the content first. CSIT Association of Nepal Pokhara proudly presented to Dr. Tekraj Chetri token of love with heartfelt thanks for your mentorship during Inkspire research writing for beginners. Thank you, sir, for taking the time to share your knowledge and insight with us. Your guidance has been really valuable and inspiring for us. We truly appreciate your support and the time you have invested in helping us grow. And at last, again, I want to thank you. Okay, Jyoti, you can carry on further.
Thank you.
Okay, we're almost at the end of the session. Thank you everyone who joined us for this session. Don't forget to fill out the feedback form, and we hope to see you in other engaging sessions by CSITAN Pokhara. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good
Bye
day.
bye, sir. Have a good night.